Hey everyone, welcome to Unearth with Shelly Hughes. I have a confession to make. Somehow or another, this incredible episode lost its part one. So I'm going to give you a little bit, what you're about to listen to is part two, but it's okay because part two with Tanya T, who is the founder of Mom Your Business, she goes into some really hard-hitting things that I think are incredibly important. That was my favorite part of the entire interview. So unfortunately, you're only getting part two today. And I am going to make sure that we re-record part one just so you can get the full picture. Part one was all about who she is and the problem that she spotted. Mainly, she dropped some awesome stats that women, especially Black women, are typically over mentored and under coached. We kind of talked about the differences between the two, and just her story about how she started just this amazing pipeline from starting from just panels to developing real cash for a lot of these female entrepreneurs that are doing just really great things in the world. So Mom Your Business is helping a lot of these women find funding for their businesses that they might not always have the opportunity to have in other instances. So that was part one. Look up Tanya T. She is a mentor mogul, self-proclaimed, like I'll say in a minute, and the founder of Mom Your Business. This, my friend, is part two. And sorry, I'm not the best tech guy out there, but here we go. Hi everyone, welcome to Unearth with Shelly Hughes. I'm Shelly Hughes. This is part two with Tanya T. She is the founder of Mom Your Business and self-proclaimed mentor mogul. And I think we might get into a little bit more of that kind of mentor side of things today. But the question we kind of ended part one with, we talked about a lot of companies don't know what business they're actually in. And you gave the perfect example of, the movie The Founder and how he was told that he's not in the hamburger business, he's in the real estate business. And so I love that you brought this up because I think this is such a pivotal positioning question and unique value proposition question we and with our clients talk about all the time. And so I would love to get your experience in talking to founders about really helping them redefine and like kind of open their eyes. Maybe it has to be from a third party of like, okay, they think they're in X business, but really they're over in Y, whether it actually relates directly to their product or not.
Yeah, the short answer is to knowing which business you're in is talking to your customers. That's just the short answer, right? I often refer our founders to a book called Talking to Humans. It's a free book online that tells you different ways to talk to your customers in person and sometimes virtually, but mostly in person. And that's talking to people, not just your people that you know, which makes people in the company. And we talked jokingly about a particular organization earlier, but during their sessions, what they found is when they send an entrepreneur or a prospective entrepreneur out to talk to people about their business, when it comes to talking to customers and taking surveys, they never come back for the mentoring and the coaching support. So entrepreneurs tend to want to figure things out in a vacuum. Tend to, my idea, or at least let me figure this part out first. And so when I think about when I think about entrepreneurs trying to figure out what business that they're actually in, I have a young lady now who makes custom aprons. And they're fantastic. They're double-sided, 8 pockets. They're amazing. But customization, getting her from out of the customization to duplication, which is going to monetize it even the more, is where we're butting heads a little bit. That's a nice way of putting it. Because the customer, she's really not in the customization. She is in the product business.
The apron business.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So getting that, but that's a mental shift that's got to happen first. We tried to get her around football season, and part of this wasn't her fault. When we finally got her to do one that was replicate, we were trying to get her I had been trying to get her to do one for the Eagles to take it down to the tailgaters. Right, trying to get her to get down to the tailgaters, and it wasn't partly it wasn't her fault. It just didn't come back out of production till near the end of the season. And since they only made one playoff game,
Didn't go that far.
It didn't go that far. But it was just like, you know what I'm saying? I'm just telling you, you gotta make that one and replicatable. And then if you do the Eagles, then you can. Do you understand what colleges tailgate? Probably worse than pros do, right? And then you got just focus on just the colleges in our region, right? Penn State, Temple, like these folks tailgate, and right now we ain't talking about the big schools outside of the state of Pennsylvania. So that's what I mean by folks, not how you figure out what business you're really in. And that's where the coaching comes in.
And what kind of questions, because I do think that mentorship and coaching, you can tell people what to do or say all day long.
Yep.
But it's almost asking the right questions.
Yes.
To get them to come up with the answer themselves.
Yes.
Which I hate. By the way, sometimes I have an amazing mentor and I was like, I just need you to tell me what to do. And he's like, no, Shelly. I'm like, I know, but I get it. Just tell me what to do. And he's like, honestly, I don't know what you should do. You know your business more than, I've been working with him for 5 years. Like he knows the business. And he's like, no, Shelly, that's not how this works.
That's not how this works.
And so what questions do you ask a founder when you realize that, the example that I actually really appreciate that you said before is like, if you make shampoo, you think you're in the shampoo business, but if you make shampoo to help women in hair loss after postpartum or having a baby or whatever, you're in the hair loss business, not in the shampoo business. Shampoo is just a means. So what kind of, which I think that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Description.
Yeah.
So what kind of questions do you ask the founder to help them identify really what is the business that they're in?
Yeah, I think that it starts with the first thing. I got to go back to the customer, right? When's the last time you talked to your customer? I always start with that. Like, when's the last time you talked to your customer? What is the feedback that you're getting from your customers? That's the first thing. Then I want to really know what is the product. Well, service businesses are harder when it comes to this. Product businesses are really a little easier to navigate because you can always just ask, okay, what is the product? What is the end user getting from the product? Let's start there. Let's go there. And then from there, we can begin to identify and move forward, like with the shampoo, right? Okay, now we're moving in the direction of being able to know which business you're actually in. I was thinking of another company earlier, and then I can't remember who it was, that we actually went all the way through this process. And she was like, you know what, I think you're right. We're in the packaged goods business. Yeah. Like, so it's a series of questions. And again, I think it depends on on what the product is.
Yeah, I think it's two levels too,
Yeah.
Or how I think of it is for shampoo, you're in the hair loss business. That is related to a problem.
Yes.
That's related to a very painful problem that their target audience that they are able to serve in the deepest way has. But then when you think about the McDonald's example, that's not exactly a problem that they're solving. It's more of a revenue
model. It was
like a long-term revenue model, right? Where they're going to make $1 off of every hamburger they sell, whatever it is,
We'll skip over the part where Ray Kroc actually took the business from somebody else.
Yeah, we'll skip that part because that's not important at all to the entire story. But my point is, again, I want to dig in here because I want to hear your point of view on how you bring this out of people. Yeah. Or like just your opinion on it is when sometimes it is based on a problem that you solve, like a core problem that you solve. On the other hand, it's that revenue model. And I think sometimes they are different.
Yeah, the revenue model is certainly, and you'll be surprised, at least you may not be, but I know sometimes I'm surprised at how few businesses, especially those that have been in business for a while, don't completely know their revenue model. They don't know how they make money. They're just counting the money, maybe putting it in a profit and loss statement, but definitely looking at the balance sheet, but don't actually know the revenue model. And so this is another question that I ask: how do you make money? So when somebody comes to me, this and that and height, and I'm like, okay, that sounds really cool. So how are you going to make money? Is another huge question to ask to help you identify what business you're actually in.
And do you think that's a question that a mentor would ask? And how would a coach ask it differently?
I think it can be a little bit of both. We have a company that we work with, Zenith Wealth Partners. They're really good at the revenue model piece. And so when I ask that question, that helps me to determine whether or not I'm going to send them over to Zenith or not. But I think the first thing is depending on what they come back with, right? If they say, well, we make, money selling 5 to 10 units a day. Right, that's the only way you make money. I always like to look at. We use the business model canvas.
I love the business model canvas.
So I always like to look at. Let's look at the revenue bottom of the canvas. Right, let's look at the revenue. But you do this. You also do that, and you also do that. But you're not monetizing those things. So those are other areas that are absolutely part of your revenue model that you aren't monetizing. So that's the revenue model side of figuring out what business you're actually in.
Yeah. You said something about asking the question to see if they, this was going to ask. Can you tell me about an example of maybe a mentor that you had or someone in the program? And don't have to be specific, but you kind of like, what was that aha moment when it comes to revenue model? Because if I can't imagine asking someone, how do you make money? And they either don't know or like, what is the outcome of being able to identify that for a small business?
I think when you look at the bottom, and I use the business model canvas all the time when it comes to this particular thing, because you have to look at all those other parts, right?
Yeah.
The operations and the people and all of that, and that's how you get down to the cost and the revenue. I think that what the outcome looks like is really getting to kind of what you do is the marketing of it, because now that we've identified what you're missing in that model is now communicating it to the customer that we also do this. I mean, we've had that in our own, to be quite honest with you, in our own experience at Mom Your Business, because for a long time people have asked how do we join, and we never had a membership program. This year is the first year we rolled out a membership program, for the first time ever. And so that came through a series of conversations, not just from our mentors. I mean, I got business coaches and mentors till the sun don't shine, right? But I also have advisors, right? And so I don't like to waste folks' time, right? So I want to always try to ask the right person the right question, if that makes sense, right? So like with Dave, who's my business coach, right? I always want to ask Dave the right questions when it comes to telling our story and doing that part of it. Whereas with somebody like Fran, who's really an advisor who has ran Goldman Sachs' small business program, I can ask Fran, like, this particular company, they are stuck and they're not X. What do we need to do? And have her come in as a fractional and really take it to the next level. So I think it really, for me, for Mom Your Business, it depends on what it is that we're trying to solve. And for the business, it depends on what their goals are and helping them to understand that revenue model, that gap that they're missing, that they're not capitalizing on.
It's so important. I just keep thinking about the whole mentor versus coach versus advisor thing, because it takes the expectations very front and center of who you're looking for and more importantly, how you can be a mentor or like what you do choose to do and how you approach that situation, right? And so I kind of want to, as we fill out the rest of this episode, because I think that was a really good conversation, but most people listening to this show hold some kind of power. They run
You with the power players.
I mean, here's the thing. If you run companies, if you sign checks, the front of checks, not the back of checks, or both, both. If you pick vendors, like, you have a lot of power. And I want to get really practical about how real support looks like from where they sit, And so let's just say if one of my listeners runs a $20 million company and says, we actually want to support women of color founders, where do you really tell them to start?
I tell them to start with their expertise. Start with your expertise, right? Whether that is industry specific or whether that is business operations specific. Start with your expertise. That's what entrepreneurs of all colors need more than anything. Now, I know folks are going to be like, well, didn't you just say black women are over mentored? That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is sharing your expertise in a very specific and concrete way can absolutely transform a business. I'll give you a great example. One of our, and he wasn't always one of our fractional, he was one of our supporters, John Bielson, who runs a marketing firm. I remember we had a summit and John was telling one of our founders about her story, and she has a cookie brand, and her cookies were all favorite treats that she had as a kid, and she wanted to give her kids a natural dessert. So she has a sweet potato cookie, she has a peanut butter and jelly cookie, she has a chocolate chunk cookie, all those kinds of things. And John told her, he said, Brenda, you need to be really telling the story of the nostalgia of that as a child and those experiences. And I was like, whoa.
The founder story.
That founder story and the whole thing of it, right? That nostalgia of it. John comes in as a fractional this last cohort. And out of all the fractionals that presented, he had more people that signed up for John to be their fractional than anybody else. Why? Because folks realized they were not telling their story correctly. And so that's why I say start with your just start where you are with your level of expertise. What business owner, whether it's 10 million to $10, they don't want to talk about themselves. Start with your expertise.
Yeah. From, again, what I've heard about you and heard you talk in the past, there's a lot of joy and purpose behind what you do. The company,
I'm having a good time.
I know, we're at work right now. Isn't that kind of cool? Your job is not an easy one, right? Between part 1 and part 2, you got a really great email and you're like, thank goodness, like this was so, and it's like, you just work so hard, and I'm sure it's really challenging to, when you're in kind of the nonprofit space, it's like getting people, like everyone wants to donate to nonprofits, yes, but it's actually getting people to actually give a crap. Whether you're nonprofit, for-profit service, B2C, whatever, it's so hard to make people care about what you care about as much as you do.
Yes.
But through that, though, it seems like there's just so much joy and purpose behind what you do and why you keep doing this work. This might put you on the spot just a little bit, but
I told you I'm an open book.
I know. I would love, what's a moment with a founder that you've had either recently or not recently, where you thought, this is why I'm still doing this?
This year we did following the Brad Feld model. Brad Feld is really like one of the innovators of the ecosystem builders, like Techstars and all those programs. So one of the programs that they do as a part of Techstars is Adopt a Founder, where you take a founder for a year and mentor them. Right. This year is the first time that I did that. And the reason I do what I do is, and I keep doing it, is the founder that I'm working with that we've adopted this year is fantastic. She's absolutely amazing. And she is going to be a millionaire. And by the time we're done this 1 year, and she's going to be the first mommy business millionaire. And so that's why, because she's committed. She has a fantastic product, Aqua Headwear. You can look it up. It's been in the New York Times. She has a fantastic product. She's in Amazon. She's turned down Shark Tank. That's because she's smart. And we have a concrete plan that we are working. And she has a full-time job. We have a concrete plan that we're working, and she's committed to that plan. And so that's why I keep doing this work, is because I believe in founders like Khadija that are going to absolutely change the game, and is going to be a $1 million company by our anniversary, which will be 2027. Yep.
So that's the good.
Here come the bad and the
Let's talk about the bad and the ugly real quick, because we gotta. Let's talk about the bad. Can you tell me, how long have you guys been in business?
2017, so it'll be 10 years next year.
10 years is a long time.
Can't believe it. I still can't believe
The majority of companies fail at 6, and then a slightly smaller majority, but a lot of other companies fail from 6 to 10. So the fact that you're at 10 years, it's amazing. There's a lot of decisions that happen in those 10 years. What is one decision you wish you could maybe redo in building this business and this ecosystem?
I don't know if I would say redo, because I wouldn't have learned the lessons that I learned. However, having said that, I probably wouldn't have done the hub differently. And here's what I would have done differently. And here's why I talk about talking to your customers all the time.
Yeah.
I would have taken more time in talking to our founders and seeing if that was really what they wanted. Because it was designed to be co-working, and we had a creator studio in it, as well as turning it over to an event space. It ended up mostly being an event space because the founders weren't getting memberships for it to utilize the co-working. So it just so happened that the building ended up getting flooded, and we had to move. And so we had to move. Cheers to the flood.
Yeah.
Well, rent and all of those great things.
Wow.
And then within that, for me, Shelly, to be honest with, and I wouldn't say it was shame. I was just extremely disappointed that it didn't work. But we dusted ourselves off, we pivoted, and we're happy where we are now. We're in a co-working space in Germantown called Braid Mill. We have a studio there. It meets our needs. They have a beautiful event space, so we're able to use it for events. And so we were able to turn that bad and that ugly into something good.
Well, let's talk about the ugly real quick. There's lots of messy seasons, right? And before we even started recording, I said that a good friend of mine who's had his business for probably 30, 40 years, he said, if you haven't lived through at least 2 recessions in your business, you don't have a business.
Pandemic counted for 2 recessions?
Oh, for sure. For sure. Can you tell me what the messiest season was for you? Maybe when funding felt thin, energy was low, the vision kind of outgrew the resources, and if you could just tell me about that and how you work your way through it practically.
Yeah, I would say the messiest season was 22, probably coming out of the pandemic. We got our 501c3 in 21, so prior to that we weren't really able to fundraise the way we would have liked to. Unfortunately, our budget has continually increased. I mean, since 21, we have actually helped founders raise a little over $1 million in capital. But during that time, though, they were 22. We had no money. We just didn't have any money. And so was it 23 was when Ruth came in with probably our largest donation to date, easily.
Wow.
And so we've been fortunate since then, but there were times when I had to still go drive a Uber, right? I was still doing consulting, and because again, Cheney was my last full-time job, and I didn't become a paid employee of Mom Your Business until 2023.
Wow.
2023. Yep.
What did you do to get through that time practically?
Didn't pray.
No.
Cry.
Start there. Start there.
Pray.
Yeah.
Just continue, to be honest, Shelly, to continue to be available. Honestly, I continued to be available to our founders that when they needed it. And we began to start identifying roles that fit us. We just finished our strategic plan in December of last year. And so we're moving I believe we're moving in the right direction, but I think it was always being forward thinking and planning what the future could look like for us. I mean, we still, I still have a bigger vision. I mean, I ultimately want us to, again, have our own space, want to have a commercial kitchen where folks can come, our fruit vendors, we serve a lot of fruitpreneurs, where our fruitpreneurs have somewhere to come that's affordable, that they can use, that they can, serve out of, that they can host events out of. So that's part of our larger vision.
Yeah. I have kind of a closing question.
Yep.
What belief has helped you lead through the hardest seasons of building this ecosystem for women founders?
My belief in God first, and my belief in people. I believe in people. I believe that people genuinely love each other and want to help and support each other. That's it. Period. And I believe in me a little bit.
A little bit on our good days. Well, Tanya, thank you so much for showing us what it looks like to, again, like you're the one that really walks the walk. You don't just talk about what needs to be done, but you really put kind of that pen to paper to make sure it happens and gather that those people, again, it all happens because of people around you to make sure it does. So for anyone listening, I hope this conversation pushes you to ask, like, where am I talking, right? And where am I just talking? versus where am I willing to really build an infrastructure to make change? Because I think that's exactly kind of what we saw today. So thank you for your time today.
Thank you so much, Shelly, for having me. This has been a blast.
Good. I'm glad. Well, guys, thank you. And if you like this episode and if you know Tanya, please share it on all of your social media channels. Even if you don't, yeah. Or even if you don't know Tanya. And of course, share this with someone that you think would be, would really benefit from a conversation like this. Rank and review. It really helps get these conversations into more earbuds. But we will see you guys next week.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.